I'm going to approach this video completely differently from how I would normally approach videos. I'm going to explain the entire thinking of this video and the point of this video in the next minute or so, and then I'll flesh out from it afterwards. I want to talk about how some people react to Andy's content. Some of them are criticizing it, some of them are acting on the advice, but they are thinking about it, or they've just completely missed the point. It's an observation Andy and I have had, it's a conversation we've had, and this falls specifically on the topics of being more honest with women and the BDSM stuff that Andy promotes. These two things, being more honest with women and BDSM, these are not tactics or strategy to get laid more. That is not the point of why Andy does them. Andy does these things because these are him being true to his authentic self and what he wants. He wants to be honest because that is how he wishes to engage with women in dating. And that's also me too. I'm 100% on board with this. I'm like one of Andy's earliest clients and students. I'm on board 100% with this. I also much prefer, from my own ethical framework, approaching dating in that way. And I love the relationships that I build being completely open and honest and looking for women who are also completely open and honest. The BDSM stuff is Andy realized that he was into that, and that was his, like, you know, how he wanted to have sex and the stuff he wanted to do in the bedroom, and therefore he promoted himself as someone who was into BDSM in online dating in order to screen in the girls who were also into that stuff so he can enjoy his sex life to the max. Again, these honesty and BDSM things that Andy promotes, that Andy likes talking about on the channel, they are him living his authentic self, being him true, who he truly is within dating and how he interacts with women. They are not the strategy or the tactics to get guys laid more. He's basically making that content to be like, hey, if you guys want to do this stuff, if this sounds like it speaks to you and who you truly are and how you want to engage with the dating world, then listen to me explain how I improve my ability to be honest and how I managed to promote myself as someone who is into BDSM and get girls who are interested in it as well. The strategy that we promote for getting laid more is self-improvement plus numbers game. That has always been fundamentally what since Good Looking Loser, who obviously wasn't connected to us, but that's where Andy and I met on the forums there. And that was specifically what he promoted. You get better looking, you get more confident, remove your approach anxiety, and then you go out and you meet women. Over time as well, you will get better at the interactions. Some guys like to learn, like, you know, game and stuff like that, but it's whatever. And eventually, with a combination of the self-improvement and the numbers game, you'll get laid more. That is more or less the only strategy that we promote. So the other things, not strategy, they are living our authentic true selves and getting what we want out of dating. I think that was more like 2 minutes. It wasn't as succinct as I wanted it to be. I'm not trying to be like, I guess, preachy or whatever. And I'm sure a lot of guys are listening being like, well, duh. And like, fair enough, if you're out there, that's your reaction. But I see criticism of Andy's approach. And I also see guys doing it and like not like talking about it as if it's a strategy, especially the BDSM stuff, especially because Andy like promotes how much he gets laid from that and, you know, what happens. It's just like a natural effect. And I know Andy's been worried about that. We've had conversations, but like, it's very much not in, if you watch any of his other content, it's like, you know exactly what Andy's about. He's about, you know, authenticity. He's about doing what you want. And a lot of this stuff that he talks about is just him doing what he wants and explaining, because there's like levels of ability, like especially with being honest with women, there is like a degree of having to fight the things in your mind and your brain that tell you don't be honest with women, fucking it's better if you lie, you know, it's more that kind of stuff. And a lot of that comes down to like effectiveness and what you believe is the way to get what you want out of dating situations. And it's actually quite funny because like if you're talking about it being like a strategy, like a lot of men will tell you that the honest approach is ineffective and will like cost you dates and cost you lays and, you know, and cost you potential relationships. Whereas like Andy and I are like, we want to use it as a screening tool. We want to be more honest. We want to be upfront. And if girls aren't okay with that, then to be honest, they're not right for us by definition, because we want to engage in an honest relationship, being really open, being able to say kind of what we want and having that level of connection. And we want to get rid of the girls who aren't honest about that. You know what I mean? So it is like, even though it isn't a strategy, it is working in a good way to screen out those girls. And the other one with the BDSM and the sex stuff, like there is obviously levels of ability there. I think if you read Andy's old stuff, like he had a real goal of like wanting to be really good at sex. I think a lot of guys have that. Like I had that to a degree. Like I've done a video about this where I talked about being like vanilla BDSM, where it's like I've tried a ton of stuff, just being in like orbit of like all the stuff and all the guys who are into it. I've like tried most of the things, but it's like it was just a case of self-discovery. It wasn't meant to be like, hey, I'm into shibari ropes now. Doesn't that make me attractive? You know what I mean? It's not that shit to me. It's like, this is something that I wanted to try out in the bedroom. This is something that I wanted to do. Are you down? Cool, let's try it out. Oh, I didn't really like that. We won't do it again. You know, that's kind of how it's been for me with that stuff. It's never been a case of like the idea of someone becoming like a shibari master purely to get girls. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't, it flies in the face of like what that community seems to be and what like the whole like onus and driver thing. I've seen guys react badly to it, like who care about that stuff and who care about that BDSM community. And when guys are like, hey, I want to do this, like when guys are clearly doing it to get girls, it like doesn't fly very well with some of the guys who are really into it. So I can see that being like maybe I don't know if it's disrespectful, whatever. You can do what you want, but like it's you're gonna like lose. I know one guy very particularly, he's been on the channel before, Dom, who like takes this stuff incredibly seriously and like talks about like there's almost like a sacredness of like those circles and those spaces within like the sex parties and communities and stuff like that. So there is that. And yeah, like Andy's the most respectful dude to this stuff in my opinion. Like, and he's like so fucking wholesome about all of this, which is incredible to have like a BDSM. On one hand, you've got all this BDSM and get laid stuff. And then on his other videos, you've got people talking about like how wholesome he is. And it's one of the best, the duality of Andy. And in terms of like raw strategy, like there's never been anything better in my mind in terms of like self-improvement plus, you know, effort, numbers game, whatever you want to call it. Like improving yourself to a point where you are a more attractive man, a more attractive person, and then going out and like playing the field and like meeting as many girls as you can, just like creating a better product and then putting it in front of like as many women as you can. That's like really, it's like painfully obvious, you know what I mean? And I think like everyone recognizes it. It's just that I guess we double down and go in on it to like a certain level of degree. And like Chris's whole framing in the past with Good Looking Loser was like hardcore self-improvement. Like, no, you know, don't cut the corners if you need to. Don't fucking like hold back from like the stuff that may seem a little bit, you know, edgy to the mainstream. But like now more and more stuff has become like mainstream acceptable. Like I see guys getting like Botox and talking about it. I got like SMP on my head. Like I have no problem talking about it. It's one of those things where like the self-improvement game is very like acceptable now. Like that all stuff is like a lot more mainstream acceptable. I don't think anything we're saying is super like out there and out of the ordinary. It works. That's like the beautiful thing about the simplicity of improve yourself, talk to a lot of girls. It fucking works. It's been really difficult for that not to work for every guys out there. And there are like, you know, there are hard cases and guys who have got like, I guess one of the biggest the biggest obstacles for a lot of guys is their own anxiety and maybe a lack of social experience. And those things, you know, can take time to get around. And those things maybe do need some extra work aside from, you know, just improve. But they kind of fall into the self-improvement space. And I think if you plug a lot of numbers in and you're self-improving, that stuff for a lot of guys, if you don't have it, will come naturally to a degree as well. The more simple framework of like putting in numbers and at the same time improving yourself, like it always falls back to that framework. Like there isn't really much else in our opinion anyway. I mean, people disagree. There are many ways to skin this cat, but we know this works. And that's why we double down on that. And we don't add too much extra onto it. Now, that's not to say that when you have these things that you want to do, they don't become part of like what you're promoting, if that makes sense. So like, as I said, Andy like wanted to do the BDSM, so he promoted that, but it was him, you know what I mean? He wasn't doing that with this is going to be super effective, hyper effective mindset. He was doing that in like no, I like this. I want to do more of this. Are there girls out there who want this? Can I find them? Is there a way that I can find them efficiently and easily? And that's his mindset on that. His mindset was, I want to find these girls without all the stuff I hate. You know, so that's typical. I don't know if anyone works in like online marketing and stuff like that, but it's like all the things you want without the stuff you hate. And Andy was like looking at his his like Tinder guide and the way he has like a script that he uses to find girls who are into BDSM, and it's like minimalist and super honest, and it's all the stuff that he wants. So it's like honest approach, and it's like kind of like minimal in terms of like the texting and the style of it. So because he hates texting and all that stuff as well. Actually, maybe less so. He can talk about that. I think he's come around to like ongoing communications with girls. Like he always used to be against that. He's like the most minimal texter ever back in the day. So yeah, there was like it was done from a mindset of this is what I want. I'm going to go find it, not I'm going to pretend to want something because it seems more attractive. If that makes sense. I know this is something we're going to be talking about again on the channel at some point. Maybe Andy and I can have a discussion about it. It's not like something we need to remind people of. I guess it's always because it's like new people show up and they misunderstand. Because like a lot of, I don't want to throw shade or whatever, but a lot of get laid content is like centered around optimization and effectiveness, and less so, and prescription. Like we're very anti-prescription. We're very anti like, this is what you should want. This is what you need to have. We think that causes unnecessary suffering. We think that's like, it just doesn't feel great to coach like that as well. Like I'm honest. And like, I just making someone do something they don't want to do and then seeing them have an unpleasant experience as a coach fucking sucks. Like Andy will say that. I'm sure Andy will say that. Like back in the early days when he would push guys, and like any coaches out there who's pushed guys to do stuff that they thought was good for the person, but they knew they didn't want to do it. It's not a good, it's really bad experience. Like if any of you out there get into coaching, you'll realize this early on if you ever try to coach in this manner. That's why Andy and I are just repeatedly asking guys, like, what do you want? And like when I talk to other coaches and other professionals in this stuff, I'm always surprised at like just like how widespread the idea of like, my position is correct. I'm going to get them results. It doesn't matter what they want. I'm going to tell them what they want or tell them what they need. And I don't know, maybe we're just offering a different product. Maybe we're just doing it in a way of like, what's your authentic self? Okay, we'll help you find it if you don't know. Now that we've figured it out, let's have a game plan to get you what you want. We'll figure it out. We'll deconstruct it from somewhere. And that's what I like about this whole video is now just turned into what I love about our coaching. If you're interested in our coaching, Andy offers introductory calls down below. You'll see information. If you just want to jump straight in, I think there's also information there as well. And there's a couple of courses in there too. But this has been a good video. It started out with me being all like trying to be succinct and direct. And now it's ended with like quite a chill conversation. So I like that. I'll speak to you guys next time. Peace.